Mr. President, to sponsor the measure, I move that we recognize the distinguished gentleman from Davao and Bohol, no other than our idol, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, chairperson of the Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs, to deliver the sponsorship speech.
The sponsor, Senator Ronald Bato de la Rosa, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Majority Leader. Mr. President, it was the year 1860 when a Swiss chemist discovered DNA. In 1986, the year I graduated from the Philippine Military Academy, DNA was used to solve a murder case in the United States of America. Today, 37 years later, I stand before this august body to sponsor Senate Bill number 2474 under the committee report number 161 entitled An Act Establishing the Philippine National Police Forensic DNA Database, appropriating funds therefore, or the PNP Forensic DNA Database Act. I believe it is not a coincidence, Mr. President. Deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA, is a genetic code that can be found anywhere in which a person has been in contact with, either a person or a thing. The DNA that is found in every nucleated cell of the human body can be collected from the people's skin, blood, saliva, and bone. Kung noon po ay isang foreign o alien concept ang DNA, sa pagdaan po ng mga panahon, sa tulong na rin ng telebisyon at social media, unti-unti na rin po itong naunawaan ng ating mga kababayan. Hindi na rin po mabilang ang mga pelikula o mga telenovela kung saan ang tema o plot ay may nagkapalit na mga sanggol mula pagkabata at magtatagpo sa isang happy ending. Ngunit marahil ay naging popular po ang DNA nitong mga nakaraang taon lamang. Noong unang may palabas sa telebisyon ng programa ng ginagalang na broadcaster na si Miss Jessica Soho, ang kauna-unahang documented case ng baby switching sa ating bansa. Sinubaybayan po ito ng ating mga kababayan ng higit sa 1 buwan. Bagamat pinahahalagahan ng ating kultura ang tinatawag na lukso ng dugo, ang kasong nabanggit ay naresolba pa rin sa pamamagitan ng siyensya ng DNA testing. More than being instrumental in the reuniting loved ones, the DNA base will also help us in times of calamities, Mr. President. Under the proposed measure, the DNA database system will be used to assist our government in the identification of missing persons or unidentified human remains, such as victims of natural disasters. Marahil ay kulang ang salita upang mailarawan ang sakit na nadarama ng isang nawalan ng mahal sa buhay. Lalo't higit kung ang pagkakasawi ay dinulot ng isang trahedya na hindi lamang bumawi ng kanilang buhay, kundi kumuha maging ng kanilang pagkakakilanlan. Malaki po ang ginagampanan ng DNA testing sa pagbibigay ng closure sa pamilya ng mga biktima. At minsan, sa pambihirang pagkakataon, nakapagbibigay din ang DNA results ng pag-asa para sa ilang umaasa na buhay pa ang kanilang mga kaanak. Mr. President, allow me to enumerate some accomplishments on disaster victim identification that was made possible because of DNA testing. 73 out of the 74 Kenti fire incidents victim in Valenzuela City in 2015 were successfully identified through DNA and were returned to their respective families for proper burial. In 2021, a C-130 plane crashed in Patikul, Sulu. In this crash, 51 out of 53 samples were subjected to DNA analysis for identification. 21 were positively identified and were returned to their respective families for proper burial. Recently, all 15 victims of the Tandangsura fire incident on August 31, 2023 were successfully identified through DNA and were returned to their respective families. DNA testing cannot bring the departed back to life, but somehow it brings a little semblance of peace to those who have to go through the painful process of grieving and healing. Mr. President, I believe that this DNA database will help to give a human face to victims of disaster. Hindi dapat natin hinahayaang may mamatay nang hindi man lang nakikilala o nakukumpirma kung sino sila. No matter how heartbreaking their deaths may have been, it is perhaps a final act of kindness, a last grant of dignity for them to be identified and properly mourned for in death. But aside from being instrumental in reuniting families and identifying victims of disasters, DNA for the longest time has been an essential part of crime solving. What seems to be a remarkable and technologically advanced manner of processing material evidence seen in shows such as CSI, Crime Scene Investigation, is in fact not a mere fragment in the imagination of creative writers. It is the actual standard in evidence gathering in the United States. Nakakatuwa nga pong isipin na marami sa mga episode ng true crime show ng Nasuko ni Mr. Gas Abelgas ay nakapagkita ng kahalagahan ng DNA testing. Maaari po sigurong malusutan ng isang kriminal ang kanyang kasalanan sa korte sa pamamagitan ng false testimonies o pagsisinungaling. Pero hindi po kailanman niya may pagkaila ang katotohanan na kanyang isinawalat ng isang DNA result. Mr. President, as I have said, DNA testing is the most powerful tool for human identification. DNA evidence is among the most valuable pieces of evidence used in criminal cases. Apart from identical twins, no two people have the same DNA, meaning the use of such evidence can either prove a person's innocence or guilt with great accuracy. The Supreme Court has long recognized the admissibility of DNA evidence in court and provided judicial guidelines for the collection, handling, and storage of biological samples in the role on DNA evidence, which is promulgated in 2007. As such, this goes to show that this proposed measure complements the rule issued by the Supreme Court. Madalas po natin marinig ang mga paratang na hindi patas ang hustisya sa ating bansa, na ang katarungan umano ay para lamang sa may mga salapi. Hindi nga raw pwede sa ating bansa ang death penalty dahil sa ating umano'y imperfect justice system. But I digress, Mr. President. The issue about the death penalty, after all, is a debate for another day. Ang akin pong pinupunto at nais sabihin ay maraming mga aspetong hindi lamang ng crime solving, kundi pati ng proper at swift delivery of justice ang matutulungan ng DNA testing. Hindi lamang po ito instrumento upang makapagpabilanggo, kundi instrumento rin ito upang makapagpalaya. Madalas nyo rin pong marinig mula sa akin na dapat bigyan ng katauhan at pangalan ang mga gumagawa ng kasamaan. Hindi sila dapat hayaan na takasan ang kanilang pananagutan sa batas. Tunay po na walang baho na hindi sisingaw. Walang lihim na hindi nabubunyag. Naniniwala po tayo rito. Pero gamitin natin ang teknolohiya, ang DNA testing para mapabilis ang pagkamit ng katarungan. Having said that, Mr. President, the DNA database under the Philippine National Police will serve as a powerful deterrence. There will always be a very good chance that one of the hands of the potential offender will be caught in the cookie jar. DNA are trails that would lead to the resolution of a criminal case. This preventive aspect adds another layer of security to the overall law enforcement strategy. I began by stating that I believe it is not a coincidence for me to sponsor this mission today. More than 160 years have passed since the discovery of DNA. I hope that this year will be the year that this Senate, together with our country as a whole, puts the discovery to its best, most humane use possible. With your support and the support of our colleagues, I know it can be done. Maraming salamat po, Mr. President.